Black Panther is the first comic book movie to feature a black protagonist. First black Marvel movie? Really? We're just gonna repeat the same shitty jokes from my Wonder Woman review? Fine, first MCU-led black superhero? Really? We're gonna count that. Okay. The first cinematic appearance of the superhero Black Panther. I could have brought up Meteor Man and Catwoman, but those would have just been low blows. So after the events of Captain America Civil War, Black Panther has returned to his home country of Wakanda to be crowned king because his dad got blown up by Zemo in Captain America Civil War. Little known to the outside world, the country of Wakanda is not a third world African nation. It's actually the world's most advanced nation due to their access to vibranium, leading to all these technological advancements. But now an apparent usurper, played by Michael B. Jordan, seeks to take out T'Challa and lead Wakanda to a revolution to bring themselves out of the shadows and take their rightful place on top of the world. He wants to lead a revolution all over the world to empower black people like himself to rise up. And with access to the resources of Wakanda, they finally have a chance to take out their oppressors. So let's start off with my favorite part of the movie, which I just mentioned. Michael B. Jordan as Killmonger. He was easily the best part of the movie to me. He's probably my favorite MCU villain. His performance is so layered, he's intimidating. He's half Wakanda with a claim to the throne that Black Panther now has, but he's half American. So he has this hatred about his homeland that he's never known. He's only heard about from tales from his father. He has so many lines that are funny, but his methods are so brutal. He's charismatic as hell in that Michael B. Jordan way, but he's still really scary. There's a lot of great stuff with him in the way that Ryan Coogler shoots some of his scenes, like flipping the camera upside down as he's entering the throne room, signifying a new king and showing the world of Wakanda being turned upside down. He's also actually a legitimate threat to the hero. He's an ex-Navy SEAL, scars himself like Victor Zsasz for every kill he gets, so he's like covered head to toe in scars. And he also has some of the most emotional scenes in the movie. He's a villain you can feel for, which are the best villains. You may not agree with his methods, but his goals do make you stop and think, like, what would you do in his situation with his background and this access to the tools of Wakanda? I'd hate that final supervillain suit that he wears. It's just another Black Panther suit. Just give him a cooler suit. Give him a tiger suit or a leopard suit or something. I haven't talked about Chadwick Boseman as T'Challa, but he was great again like he was in Civil War. He has one of the most interesting character conflicts in the MCU. He struggles to be a good king, living up to the standard that his father set, dealing with some things from his father's past. He's great. One of the best heroes in the MCU. The rest of the cast is way too many. This is a big ensemble, but they're all good as well. Lupita Nyong'o, Angela Bassett. Winston Duke as Manape was probably my favorite. That's a racist ass name, Stan Lee. But Winston Duke also stole the show in this movie as M'Baku. I think that was his character's name. Michonne from The Walking Dead, also really good. Daniel Kaluuya from Get Out was kind of disappointing. His character motivation kept shifting. His character was like the worst in the movie. The problems I had are the usual problems with the MCU. Bad humor. There is not nearly as much as the other Marvel movies. This movie has probably the biggest offender of any of them by far. I used the "what are those" meme from like 3 years ago. This movie's gonna be out of date by the time I finish the sentence. The music that's not the soundtrack by Kendrick Lamar is forgettable and generic. Black Panther has no memorable theme, that gets you jazzed, like the John Williams Superman score or the Man of Steel Superman score. That's the problem with the whole MCU. None of the main heroes have good themes except the Guardians and the Avengers. There's some bad editing where the scene feels like it cuts off too quickly, and then there's some shifts between live action and CGI that are pretty awkward. The opening action scene especially is really poorly done. It's so darkly lit, you can barely see anything that's going on. Plus, it's the shaky cam close-up, so you have no idea about anything that's going on. It makes it 10 times worse. The finale is also way too CGI heavy, and it took me out of it because I was completely invested in T'Challa versus Killmonger. That really just needed to be a brutal one-on-one fight, not the CGI jumping all over the place like in Spider-Man 3. Also, a weird thing, the finale is pretty much the finale of The Phantom Menace. You have the white guy, Martin Freeman, driving the pilot ship that he doesn't know anything about, like Anakin in The Phantom Menace. Then you have two armies going at each other on an open field, like the droids versus the Gungans in The Phantom Menace. Then you have a fight, like a main fight in the factory setting underground, the main planet. A lot of the action felt like it never had any weight to it, and Black Panther should. He's like Marvel's Batman. I think Ryan Coogler did do great with the storytelling, the physical stunts, like in the ceremony fights, but he got really way too lost in the effects, especially in the finale. The screenplay is also sloppy. The first act is completely inconsequential to the rest of the movie. It's like, oh, if Michael B. Jordan wanted to do this, why didn't he just do this right at the beginning? And that takes away from some missed opportunities like seeing Black Panther dealing with being a king, dealing with his father's legacy, defending his country, the world outside of Wakanda, dealing with the UN now, his relationship with Nyong'o. I did like the movie, even though I'm crapping on it a little bit. There's a lot to like, mostly the performances and character stuff. But there was way too much talent behind the camera and in front of the camera for this not to be like the best Marvel movie ever. Keep Vine jokes out of Marvel movies. You already lost me with Star Wars when you put in your mother joke in the first 5 minutes. I am glad this movie made a ton of money, because it'll lead to more riskier Marvel stuff, maybe Moon Knight or something. Or better yet, maybe a Static Shock movie if DC can get off their ass. Or hell, maybe Marvel can get Wesley Snipes back for Blade 4 directed by Guillermo del Toro. I can only dream. Bye.